Happy New Year, Jamaica. It's our pleasure to start this new journey with you as we continue to inform, educate, and entertain you inside Jamaica Magazine for 2022. I'm your host, Theodore Henry. This enlightening half-hour edition is packaged to inspire you as we enter the new year. So sit back and relax to hear more on positive actions, progress, and new possibilities right after these announcements. As we look back to where we are coming from and ahead to where we're going, Governor General Sir Patrick Allen, in his New Year's message, offers words of hope for a better Jamaica. He also calls on Jamaicans to be courageous and to strive for unity in building a more prosperous and peaceful Jamaica.
Happy New Year!
My fellow Jamaicans at home and in the diaspora, on this first day of 2022, we welcome a new dawn of limitless possibilities. Today, as we start a new journey into the unknown, I offer you words of hope and courage. Hope to believe that better days are on the horizon, and courage to rise and meet them. The British poet John Donne says, "No man is an island entire of itself. The bonds that unite us are stronger than the elements that divide us." It is this unity that will sustain us as we pull ourselves together and retool, refocus on what we can achieve even as we confront the triple realities of crime, COVID, and corruption. We must not allow Jamaica to be defined by antisocial behaviors, but by the brain power of our scholars, the speed and agility of our sportsmen and women, our ingenuity and our perseverance. We continue to be inspired by our heroes, leaders, parents, pastors, and professionals. As a country, we have been able to evolve and adapt through the eras of our experiences and by the strength and vigor of our minds. We can continue to chart a united path to achieve our goals. We cannot proceed into a solid future pulling apart in different directions. Our poet laureate, Olive Sr., in her anthology, Over the Roofs of the World, reminds us, and I quote, "You have entered that place where flight is given," unquote. That is where we are today. So we take flight into the new year, ready to reaffirm our commitment to God and country, to celebrate each other, to believe in ourselves, and to continue building a solid foundation for generations to come. One step at a time, one day at a time. Mitch Albom, the famous American author and journalist, reminds us in his best-selling novel, The 5 Persons You Meet in Heaven, that things we see around us did not appear with our arrival. They were here long before. We only build on them, strengthen them, repair them, so that the next generation can take them befittingly to another level. The problems of the past year have tested our mettle and strengthened us to face the odds. In 2022, we will also face challenges that include making crucial decisions in our personal and national lives. However, we do not fear for the future if we accept the charge given to Joshua after the death of Moses. Be strong and very courageous. Do not fear, for the Lord your God, He is the one who goes with you. He will not leave you nor forsake you. As we stand at the gate of 2022, we will tread into the new dawn and embark on this new journey with courage, confidence, and commitment. And together we will reap the success of nation building while also building our homes and communities. Lady Allen and the King's House staff join me in wishing you a bright and prosperous new year filled with good health and happiness. God bless you, and God bless Jamaica, land we love.
Happy New Year!
Next, Prime Minister Andrew Holness welcomes the dawning of a new era in 2022 with possibilities and opportunities for recovering stronger from the pandemic and continuing the transformation of Jamaica into a modern, peaceful, and prosperous society. Here is his New Year's message to the nation.
I'm sure we're all breathing a collective sigh of relief that we made it through one of the most challenging years, globally, nationally, and personally in our lifetimes. As Jamaica, like the world, tried to protect our population from the deadly virus through measures such as curfews, lockdowns, mask wearing, and vaccination, these very measures, which have kept us safe, have also disrupted our social routines, disrupted supply chains, disrupted livelihoods, and imposed on our freedoms. Globally, supply chain disruptions have caused inflation to rise, and locally, that has been reflected in price increases, particularly in food. Governments have had to increase public debt in order to increase spending on social protection to cushion the fallout in employment and household income. In Jamaica's case, because of prudent management, we built up fiscal buffers and we were able to reallocate resources within our budget to deliver a record of over $100 billion of social protection and recovery support without increasing borrowing. Now, I understand that for some listening, this may seem like not a big deal. However, in the past, shocks such as a storm or commodity price shocks as we experienced in the 1970s and 80s, or a global financial recession as we experienced in 2009, would have precipitated major economic crises with long recovery periods. As the IMF observed in its recent concluding statement on Jamaica, unlike in the past, the pandemic-related shock was not followed by a fiscal, financial, or balance of payment crisis. This is a solid testament of the maturing of our economic management, the deepening of our institutions, and how far we have progressed in our quest for economic independence. This solid fiscal platform underpins the strong recovery that we are already seeing. Tourism has rebounded to almost 70% of pre-pandemic levels. Employment is rebounding with the return of some 93,000 jobs, and expectations are that the country will record growth of around 8%. While we close out 2021, the challenges and threats to our strong recovery will continue in 2022. As we speak, we are already seeing signs of a fourth wave of infections and increased hospitalizations in Jamaica. Notwithstanding the diligent preparations that the government has been making in beds and oxygen in anticipation of a fourth wave, our health system can easily be overwhelmed by a surge in infections. I believe it is widely understood that the country, you, and your family cannot afford another round of lockdowns. And indeed, it would be an even greater travesty if our children, having already lost over a year, were denied conventional schooling for much longer. The government always stands ready to protect you and care for you if you're ill. However, there is a limit to what any government can do, and Jamaica's constraints are even more limiting. After almost 2 years of the pandemic, you now know what to do to protect yourself and your family. It is always good advice to eat right, exercise, and build your immune system, but specifically to wear your mask, sanitize, physical distance, avoid large gatherings and unnecessary travel. If you are ill with symptoms, get tested, isolate, and seek medical treatment. And above all, get immunized. I appeal to all Jamaicans to play their part in securing our recovery. Your life and your livelihood are in your hands. This year, Jamaica will celebrate 60 years of independence, our Diamond Jubilee. It is time for us to start the process of redefining our state as a republic. It is also a time when we should critically reflect on our performance as a nation, assess our strengths and weaknesses, rekindle our dreams and aspirations, ignite our passions and zeal to realize our true destiny as a people. And we must resolve to ensure that the republic we will create will substantively improve the well-being and secure the freedom and prosperity of every citizen. The task for the 60th, therefore, must be to set the Jamaican Republic on a path where it can actually deliver for its citizens. The current Jamaican state has struggled throughout much of its independent history. Real GDP per capita is at the same level now as it was in 1970. We have lurched from crisis to crisis due to exogenous shocks and endogenous institutional weaknesses. However, in the last decade, we have embarked on an important exercise in building a strong nation. That is, having a robust, prudent, and resilient fiscal and monetary system. We would have seen the benefits of this, as I pointed out before, in withstanding the shock of the pandemic. Building a strong nation means building robust, resilient, connected, and smart infrastructure. I'm satisfied that we are developing the financial, technical, and managerial wherewithal to support an unprecedented expansion in infrastructure in Jamaica that will improve the convenience and efficiency of everyday life and make every Jamaican proud. Harmony Beach Park in Montego Bay is a perfect example of infrastructure improving quality of life. We have several major infrastructure projects, including hospitals, police stations, parks, courts, schools, highways, and housing that will begin in our 60th year to visually embody and represent our nation. Equally, in our 60th year, we must confront the steady and persistent decline in national productivity over the last few decades, which is further compounded by an increase in productivity in competing countries within our region. This is not merely an economic issue. It is wrapped up in a general decline in our work ethic, in our civility to each other, in our ability to reason and communicate in standard form, and our ability to resolve conflicts without resorting to violence. At the heart of the problem is our human capital development gap, and reforming the education system is key to the solution. The World Bank best explains the problem in its published Human Capital Index. In Jamaica, children who start school at age 4 can expect to complete an average of 11.4 years of school by their 18th birthday. However, what they actually learn amounts to only 7.1 years of learning. We now have the Education Transformation Commission report, completed in time for our 60th year, which will guide our efforts in the mission of building a first-class education system which will create productive and innovative citizens to drive the growth of our nation. If we accomplish nothing else in this decade, we must transform the education system. And in this, I am determined. Much has been said about crime, and in particular homicides. This year, all serious crimes except homicides trended down by 8%. The JCF continues to build out their intelligence, investigative, and forensic capabilities. And we see the evidence of this in the number of organized gangs being brought before the courts, the number of guns recovered, and the number of crime plots interrupted, including contract killings. We are also improving the capabilities of the JDF in controlling our maritime space, and we are seeing the evidence of this in the increased interdiction of drugs and other illegal traffic through our waters. MOCA continues to build out its capabilities to investigate cyber crimes and other major organized criminal and corrupt activities. It is important that these capacities be developed within our law enforcement agencies, as 70% of murders are connected to some form of gang activity or organized crime. Over time, the increased capabilities and effectiveness of our law enforcement agencies will narrow the space for criminals to operate. 85% of all homicides in Jamaica are committed using an illegal firearm, meaning a gun that was brought into the country illegally, never registered in the National Firearm Database, and the owner was never put through a process to determine whether they are fit and proper. Legal firearms do not pose such a criminal threat. It is the proliferation of illegal guns which must be addressed with new legislation to create the highest possible consequence and deterrence for acquisition, dealing, possession, and use of an illegal firearm. Early this year, we will bring a new firearms bill to Parliament that will make it clear that the harshest consequences will flow from the possession of illegal guns. Possessing an illegal weapon increases the means and likelihood of the possessor escalating to committing murder or other serious crimes. All Jamaicans should speak with one voice against the illegal possession of firearms. Zones of special operations have worked very well in the communities in which they have been deployed. We will continue to expand the use of zones of special operations to control crime and homicides in selected communities. The Enhanced Security Measures Bill is being refined and should be brought to Parliament in the next financial year. This will further augment the crime-fighting powers of the police. In the interim, the JDF and the JCF will continue to deploy strategically as best as possible with its resources in static and dynamic operations to secure affected communities. In our 60th year, we must have a breakthrough in reducing homicides. I have committed to passing all the necessary legislation and providing the required resources to flatten the homicide curve. We will prevail. As we bid goodbye to 2021, we welcome the opportunities a new year presents. Cognizant of the challenges, but filled with a spirit of hope, optimism, and determination. Though we have been slowed by the pandemic, we have not been derailed. Jamaica is still on track. Hardships there are, but the land is green and the sun shineth. I wish for all Jamaicans a happy, healthy, safe, and prosperous 2022. God bless Jamaica.
Leader of the opposition, Mark Golding, is calling on Jamaicans to believe in themselves and rise above challenges. He is encouraging Jamaicans to reflect and rededicate their energy and efforts in 2022 to making Jamaica a better place. Here is more from his 2022 New Year's message.
my fellow Jamaicans at home and abroad, Happy New Year! 2021 has come and gone, and my family and I wish that 2022 will be a safe, healthy, and prosperous year for each and every one of you. As a new year begins, we have the opportunity to reflect on the year that has passed. 2021 was a year in which the pandemic continued to dominate our lives here in Jamaica and all across the world. We are all hoping that 2022 will be the year in which Corona is brought under control and starts a new chapter in which our daily lives are no longer impacted by public health restrictions. Achieving this will require us to continue to act responsibly in how we conduct ourselves and observing the routines that have helped keep us safe over the past 2 years. 2021 was a year when the impact of the global pandemic continued to negatively affect the economy and people's daily lives. The economy continues to operate at a level well below where it was before Corona struck. In 2021, the increases in the cost of living, in food prices, electricity prices, gas prices, brought tremendous pressure to many Jamaicans, especially those on fixed salaries and those who have to hustle for their daily living. Many Jamaicans would have liked to see more being done to assist them to weather the slowdown in the economy and the high prices. We must express a special word of gratitude to our Jamaicans overseas who sent home a record amount of financial support to their families here on the Rock, without which many people would have been unable to survive. We hope that 2022 will see the continuing recovery of the world economy and that the global tide will also lift us here in Jamaica and ease the hardships being endured by many Jamaicans. We also wish to see more being done to protect the vulnerable among us who are close to the edge of survival and need assistance. 2021 was a year in which the education of our children continued to suffer terribly. Hundreds of thousands of students, especially those at the basic, primary and secondary levels, have received very little, if any, education for nearly 2 years. Remedying the negative impact of this learning loss must be an immediate national priority, requiring absolute focus and policy attention. 2022 must see the rollout of a well-funded series of measures that will remedy the negative impact suffered by these students to repair the situation and prevent them suffering long-term harm. Last year was a year in which violent crime continued to blight the nation, with murders up 10% in 2021 over the preceding year. This coming year, we need to see the full rollout of all the tools available to bring this scourge under control. We would like to see the more comprehensive and effective use of the JDF and the police force in zones of special operations to bring hotspots under control, supported by curfews, cordon and search, and the intense use of the anti-gang and anti-scamming legislation, supported by DNA evidence and other lawful measures permitted by our Constitution that do not violate the basic fundamental rights of our people. We need to see more action to strengthen the legislative tools to support law enforcement, including enhanced surveillance capabilities and updating of legislation against illegal weapons, guns in particular. We also need to see a more balanced approach to crime prevention, including investments to address the structural failures in the education system that promote intergenerational poverty and inequality in our society. And we need national programs to give hope and opportunities to vulnerable youth who have left school with little or nothing to show for it, all too often ending up taking the wrong path in their lives to the detriment of us all. 2022 brings hope for a new day. As we enter our 60th year of independence, we should recognize this milestone by taking the steps that will give Jamaica a Jamaican head of state and relinquish the colonial legacy of having a foreign monarch as our queen. This is not mere empty symbolism. It is fundamental, an issue of national identity and national self-confidence. It is an important expression that we believe in ourselves as Jamaicans and believe that our destiny as a nation and a people lie in our hands and must be of our own making. I salute our sister nation Barbados, its fearless leader, Prime Minister Mia Mottley, and its opposition party for resolutely and successfully pursuing independent statehood as a mature, bipartisan national effort. Jamaica must act now and not waste this opportunity for positive change that has arisen with the momentum now building behind this issue. We also join with the judiciary in calling for the other colonial vestige, which is the distant and inaccessible Privy Council, as our people's final court of appeal, to be replaced by the excellent, effective, and accessible Caribbean Court of Justice. 2 previous attempts to achieve this were unsuccessful because of a lack of bipartisan support. Surely we can do better and join hands to complete Jamaica's constitutional independence. Having settled those 2 long outstanding matters, we will then be able to work together on other beneficial reforms to our Constitution that will strengthen our participatory democracy and bring greater accountability to those entrusted with the governance of our country. In 2022, let us put an end to the corruption and dishonest dealings that have become a constant blight on our public institutions. Jamaica deserves honest government, where scarce public resources are used for the sole benefit of the Jamaican people and not for the personal enrichment of those who have been entrusted with the governance of the state and its institutions. The constant episodes of dishonesty in public institutions undermine the legitimacy of our democratic way of life, hurt our economy, and weaken the rule of law, which must be the basis of our national life. Jamaicans are sick and tired of being let down by their political leaders. Better must come. In 2022, let us recommit to policies which build social cohesion, reduce inequality, and are inclusive of all members of our society without discrimination or exclusion. The dignity of human life must be at the forefront of our policy making, and promoting fairness and justice must be the cornerstone of principle which directs our decision making. This is the pathway that will ensure that Jamaica will, under God, increase in beauty, fellowship and prosperity, and play her part in advancing the welfare of the whole human race. For 2022, I pledge the love and loyalty of my heart, the wisdom and courage of my mind, the strength and vigor of my body in the service of my fellow citizens. I promise to stand up for justice, brotherhood, and peace, to work diligently and creatively, to think generously and honestly. Let us dedicate our energy and efforts in 2022 to taking Jamaica, land we love, forward to a new and better place. Together, we can do it. Together, we can make the change. Happy New Year, Jamaica. One love.
We must take our airtime break right here for today, but you can continue to view more of our programming by visiting the JIS website or our YouTube channel. You can also connect with us on all the major social media platforms and our mobile app that's Android and iOS compatible. Join us again tomorrow for another informative show. From all of us here at the JIS, Happy New Year, celebrate safely and responsibly. I'm Theodore Henry. Thanks for watching.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.